Chazayin Amid Bet. I'm just going to be reading sections 3 and 4, which is what you're going to be reading for your Flipgrid assignment. So sections 1 and 2, you do not need to read for your Flipgrid assignment, just 3 and 4, the pink one and the green one. Meitiv Rav Kahana ben Bagbag Omer, Al tikanis lechatzer chavarcha litol shalcha shelo bereshut. So Rav Kahana brings the following statement as an attack. And the Gemara is going to have to figure out, who is this coming to attack? Ben Bagbag Omer, Ben Bagbag says, don't go to your friend's courtyard to take what's yours without permission. Shema tir'a alav kiganav, because perhaps you will seem as though, look to him, it will look like you are a robber. Ella shibur chinav va'amor lo shali ani notel. Rather, you should say to him, as you're taking your thing, I'm taking what's mine. So as you're taking your object, you should break his teeth and say, I'm taking back what's mine, as opposed to kind of sneaking in like you're a robber. Now, Rashi's here, which you're going to be reading as part of your assignment. You should not go to the courtyard of your friend with, like you're stealing and in secret, because you don't want to seem like you're a robber. You're not a robber. You're taking back what's yours. Rather, you should break his teeth. As if to say, you should take it with strength, with force. Vikashya Rav Yehuda. And this statement of Ben Bagbag is an issue for Rav Yehuda. And now the reason why it's an issue for Rav Yehuda is because Rav Yehuda had previously said, a person can only take the law into their own hands, where there is loss that they are preventing. However, if the loss had already happened, right, if the object was already in the possession of the other person, then you cannot take the law into your own hands. Then you have to take the person to Beit Din. And in this case, where Ben Bagbag is saying that someone else has your object in their possession, in their chatzer, it seems like the loss already happened. So this would be a case of lekap seda. And therefore, if Ben Bagbag says that he's advising you that you should be taking the law into your own hands in this case, it seems like he's coming to disagree with Rav Yehuda and instead coming to agree with Rav Nachman, who said that you can take the law into your own hands even where the loss already happened. The loss is already done with. Amar le, so according to Rashi now, Amar le, Rav Yehuda says to Rav Kahana about Ben Bagbag, imcha, right, that, either you should keep this to yourself, or do you really want to say this, right? Maybe, you're the only person who thinks this. Ben Bagbag yichida'ahu. Ben Bagbag is a singular lone opinion. Uplige Rabbanan aleh, and the rabbis disagree with him. So, Rav Yehuda's response is just, Ben Bagbag is the only one who agrees with Rav Nachman. Everyone else agrees with me, with Rav Yehuda. Rav Yane Amar, my shibur chinav. Rav Yane says, what does it mean when Ben Bagbag says you should break the other person's teeth? Badin. You should break the other person's teeth with judgment by bringing him to Beit Din. So therefore, according to Rav Yane, Ben Bagbag is not coming to attack Rav Yehuda. Ben Bagbag is actually coming to attack Rav Nachman. Ben Bagbag is saying, just like Rav Yehuda thinks, that if the loss already happened, then you have to take the person to Beit Din. You cannot take the law into your own hands by physically, forcefully taking back your object. You have to bring the other person to court. Ihachi, if so, va'amor lo, va'omrim lo mibayalei. So if Rav Yane is right that that's what Ben Bagbag meant when he said shibur chinav, that he was talking about going to court, when Ben Bagbag said va'amor lo, and you, singular, should say to him, the person who took your object, but instead it should have said ve'omrim lo, and you in plural should say to him. If Ben Bagbag was talking about going to Beit Din, then this should not be a one-on-one conversation between the person whose object was stolen and the person who took it. Rather, it should be a conversation, right, or a dialogue between the rabbis of the Beit Din and the person who took the item. So the rabbis of the Beit Din should be saying in plural to the person who stole the object, right? And instead, right, so what should they be saying? Ben Bagbag said, Shali ani notel. Right? Ben Bagbag said, you should say to him, Va'amor lo shali ani notel. I am taking what's mine. Shalohu notel mi bayalei. If Rav Yane is right that this is talking about going to court, then instead it should say he is taking what's his in the third person, not first person. So the Gemara points out that even though Rav Yanai seems to suggest that maybe we could read Ben Bagbag's opinion as saying that you're taking the person to court, grammatically, it actually doesn't make a lot of sense with what he said. The way that he phrased it should have been different. Kashya, the Gemara leaves off by saying that this is a difficulty. We're not sure whether we should interpret Ben Bagbag as an attack against Rav Yehuda or Rav Nachman, although we pointed out that Kashya is perhaps not as strong a rejection or a conclusion as Tiyufta. Right? So we're not totally sure how to interpret Ben Bagbag. However, it seems like we would probably argue that it seems more likely that Ben Bagbag was coming, in fact, to attack Rav Yehuda, because grammatically, it's a bit of a stretch to say that he was coming to attack Rav Nachman. Section 4, the green section, Tashma. Common learned, it was taught in a Breita. Shor sha'ala al gav chaveiro lahorgo, uba bal hatachtun v'shimei at shalo v'nafal alyon v'meit patur. So we have a case where an ox goes on top of the back of its friend, or another ox, to kill it, and the owner of the ox that was on the bottom comes and removes his ox from under the top one, so the top one falls and dies. And in this case, the owner of the ox that was on the bottom, the Baal Hatachton, is patur from paying for the ox that had been on top that ended up dying. My love b'muad to lekap seda. Is it not that we're talking here about a case of a shor muad, where the ox that was on top was a muad, and therefore, whatever damage it would have done, it would have had to pay nezek shalem, and therefore, it's a case of lekap seda, right? There was no loss that the owner of the ox was actually preventing, because he would have ended up getting back his total amount of his ox back, even if his ox had ended up dying. And therefore, maybe this Breita is coming to weigh in on our machloket between Rav Yehuda and Rav Nachman. So the Gemara makes the suggestion, maybe if we say that this is talking about a shor muad, okay, now we have an answer about who we hold in this machloket between Rav Yehuda and Rav Nachman. But the Gemara rejects this. Lo, bitam. No, we're dealing with a tam in this case, a shor tam that attacked the other ox, and therefore, to ikap seda, there would be loss, because if the shor tam ends up killing the ox that was on the bottom, the owner of the ox that was on the bottom is only going to get back half the value of his ox. He's going to lose out on the other half. Therefore, he saves his ox, because everyone agrees that in a case of preventing loss in the moment, right, money that you're not going to be able to get back ever, then of course you can take the law into your own hands. If so, if we're really talking about a shor tam, let's say the seifa, let's learn the seifa. If the owner of the ox that was on the bottom pushes the ox that was on the top out of the way, and from that push, the ox that was on the top dies, chayav, the owner of the ox that was on the bottom, because he pushed the ox and caused him to die, now he's chayav. Now, why would he be chayav, right? In the end, it's basically the same case, right? One ox is attacking another ox. The owner of the ox on the bottom prevents his ox from dying. Yet, in this seifa, we see his chayav. So what changed? V'ibetam amai chayav. And if this is talking about a short time, why should he be chayav? He was trying to prevent the loss of his money. And we thought, didn't we just say, everyone agrees that you can take the law into your own hands where you're preventing a loss. So why should it make a difference if there's going to be loss? Why should it make a difference if he pushed his own ox out, if he pulled his own ox out of the way, or if he pushed the other ox out of the way? So the Gemara answers, Shahaya lo lishimto velo shimto, because he could have removed his ox, but he did not remove his ox. And that's why in this seifa, even though we're still talking about a shor tam, and yes, he was preventing loss, but the reason why he's chayav is because the way that he did it. He could have saved his ox not by pushing the other ox out of the way, but by removing his own ox.